Willow Brook. The name itself hung over the town like a shroud, a promise of coldness and decay. It wasn't just the old hospital on the hill. It was a presence, a stain on the very soul of the place. People didn't talk about it, not if they could help it. They'd look away, a shadow crossing their faces, and speak of other things. But everyone knew. Everyone felt the darkness that seeped from its crumbling walls. I was young and foolish then, or perhaps just desperate. A night guard at Willow brook. The job paid well, and I needed the money. I told myself the stories were just stories, meant to scare children. But the moment I stepped inside, the air itself changed. It was heavy, stagnant, and carried a scent I can only describe as old death and madness. The building was a maze of long, twisting hallways. The paint peeled in strips from the walls, revealing the sickly yellow plaster beneath. Moonlight, fractured and weak, filtered through the grimy windows, casting long, distorted shadows that danced with every step I took. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional drip of water or the scuttling of unseen things in the darkness. My rounds took me through the abandoned wards. The rooms were small, each one a tomb holding the echoes of suffering. Iron beds lined the walls, many with thick leather straps still fastened to them. Restraint chairs, their purpose chillingly clear, stood in corners, facing blank, staring walls. I tried not to imagine the screams that had once filled those rooms, the struggles against those restraints. In the center of the asylum was the rotunda, a large circular room with a high, domed ceiling. Moonlight streamed through a shattered skylight, illuminating the dust motes that swirled in the air like lost souls. The rotunda was always the coldest part of the building, a place where the temperature dropped suddenly and the feeling of being watched intensified. One night, the whispers started. It began subtly, a faint rustling at the edge of hearing. I dismissed it as the wind, the old building settling. But it grew, becoming clearer, more insistent. It was like a chorus of voices, too low to understand, but filled with a terrible longing, a desperate plea. The whispers led me to the West Wing, a section of the asylum that was supposedly sealed off. The hallways here were narrower, the darkness thicker. The air smelled worse here, a mix of decay and something else, something acrid and metallic that made my stomach churn. The sound came from the last room on the left. A heavy metal door, its surface scarred and scratched, barred my way. It was locked, secured with a rusted padlock and a heavy chain. I put my ear to the cold metal. The whispers were a cacophony now, a jumble of voices crying out in pain and terror. And then I heard a single voice, clear above the others. A woman's voice, weak but laced with a chilling anger. "Let me out. Please, let me out. I'm still here. I'm still here." My blood ran cold. No one should have been in that wing. It had been sealed for years after what happened. The stories said it was where the worst of them had been kept, the ones beyond help, beyond hope. My hand trembled as I unlocked the padlock, the rusted metal protesting with a grating screech. I pulled at the chain, the heavy links clanging in the suffocating silence. The whispers intensified, swirling around me like a vortex. I opened the door. Darkness. A darkness so complete it felt like a physical presence, pressing against me, stealing my breath. I shined my flashlight into the room. the beam cutting a feeble swathe through the gloom. The room was small, bare. A single iron bed stood in the corner, its mattress stained and rotting. In the center of the room, a figure sat on the floor. She was still, her back to me. Her hair was long, black, and tangled, cascading down her back like a shroud. It moved slightly as if alive. "Hello?" I croaked, my voice barely a whisper. The figure didn't move. The whispers died down, leaving an unnerving silence in their wake. Then, slowly, deliberately, she began to turn. Her face was pale, inhumanly so. Her skin stretched taut over her bones, giving her an almost skeletal appearance. Her eyes were large, black, and empty. They didn't reflect the light of my flashlight. They seemed to absorb it, swallowing it into an endless void. And then she smiled. It was a grotesque distortion of a human expression, a pulling back of lips to reveal yellowed, pointed teeth. It was a smile of hunger, of malice, of a predatory glee that chilled me to the core. "You let me out," she said. Her voice was like the scraping of metal on stone, a sound that grated against my very soul. "Now we can play." She rose to her feet, her movements fluid and unnatural, like a puppet controlled by unseen strings. Her limbs bent at angles that no human body should allow. She moved towards me, her long, thin fingers twitching, reaching. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just ran. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet, desperate to escape the horror that was unfolding before me. The woman laughed, a high-pitched, shattering sound that echoed through the asylum, bouncing off the walls and chasing me like a physical force. The whispers were back, too, louder now, a chorus of insane voices urging her on, promising her what? I didn't want to know. I ran through the labyrinthine hallways, the darkness pressing in on me, the shadows twisting into grotesque shapes that mirrored the terror in my mind. I could hear her behind me, her footsteps light and quick, impossibly so. She was gaining on me. I burst through the front doors of the asylum, the cold night air a shock to my lungs. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I drove until the asylum was a distant silhouette against the dark horizon. I didn't look back. I never went back to Willow Brook. I quit the next morning, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the pen to sign the papers. The money wasn't worth it. Nothing could ever be worth what I saw, what I heard. But even now, years later, the memories haunt me. The whispers still echo in my dreams. The woman's face still flashes before my eyes. And sometimes, on quiet nights, when the wind howls around my house, I swear I can hear her laughter, like breaking glass, carried on the wind. I know she's still there, in the darkness of Willow Brook, waiting for someone else to open the door, waiting to play,